Hi, this is Morley and this is the M-Wire. This is a video that's kind of a follow-up to the video I did earlier on how Governor DeSantis of Florida is proposing new laws and how riders would be held accountable for their actions. In this video, we're going to look at how drivers would not be liable if they ran over someone fleeing a mob surrounding their car. As they say, play stupid games, win stupid prizes. We can see that the left is trying to make a career out of playing a victim here. Under DeSantis' new law, drivers would be precluded from any liability in this situation. I wholeheartedly agree with this. If you want to swarm a car and get run over, to that I say, oh well. We've already seen in Portland that a protester with a gun rushed a car and he ended up getting fatally shot and killed. As well, under DeSantis, the new laws like this would be a crime as well.
Stand up, fight back! Stand up, fight back!
I mean, here you have, and this happened in Florida too, here you have an elderly couple just out having dinner, and all of a sudden this BLM mob comes along and starts harassing them, completely unprovoked. The law would prevent things like that from happening too. This is just abhorrent. People minding their own business and people are subjected to this. There has to be legislation in place to prevent this. Let's get into this article. DeSantis proposes new law allowing drivers of vehicles to escape violent mobs without the legal liability for having to run people over. Florida Governor Ron DeSantis has introduced new legislation that, if passed, would remove liability for injury or death when a driver fleeing for safety from a mob runs over protesters with a vehicle. Known as the Combating Violence Disorder and Looting and Law Enforcement Protection Act, DeSantis would not only legalize plowing over protesters who block traffic, but also make it a third-degree felony to obstruct traffic in an unpermitted protest, demonstration, or violent or disorderly assembly. Today I announced bold legislation that creates new criminal offenses and increases penalties for those who target law enforcement and participate in violent or disorderly assemblies, DeSantis tweeted. We will always stand with our men and women in uniform to keep our communities safe. A screenshot of the legislation, also tweeted by DeSantis, reveals the criteria for what constitutes a violent or disorderly assembly, as well as constructing roadways, destroying or toppling monuments, and harassing people in public accommodations such as a restaurant. When 7 or more people involved in an assembly cause damage to property or injury to others, it explains this constitutes a third-degree felony. Blocking traffic in order to protest is also a third-degree felony, and one that a driver would not be held liable for in the event that he causes injury or death while fleeing for safety from a mob. Under the DeSantis proposal, it would constitute second-degree felony to destroy any public property during a protest. And anyone who harasses or intimidates someone while that someone is eating at a restaurant or otherwise enjoying a public accommodation would constitute a first-degree misdemeanor. DeSantis wants mandatory minimum sentences for harming law enforcement. Other new penalties that DeSantis wants to impose includes a new mandatory minimum prison sentences for striking a law enforcement during a violent or disorderly assembly. Doing this, including with a projectile would result in an immediate 6-month jail sentence. Throwing objects at police or otherwise assaulting them would only escalate the penalties, and would participating in a violent or disorderly assembly in a state where protesters do not actually live. Should a local Florida municipality try to defund the police or otherwise express support for such an agenda, DeSantis would immediately pull in all state grant and aid money from that locale. Local governments that allow a violent or disorderly assembly that results in a person being victimized would also be allowed to sue said government for gross negligence. Any individual on government aid who is convicted of participating in a violent or disorderly assembly anywhere in Florida would immediately lose said benefits. There would also be no bond or bail issued for a first appearance in court if a person charged with a crime related to so-called anti-fascist activity. Responding to DeSantis legislation, former Tallahassee Mayor Andrew Gillum, a Democrat, immediately called for legal advocacy groups to bring legal action against the governor. This proposal, he says, would have legalized the murder of Heather Heyer in Charlottesville. James Alex Fields, Jr., the guy that was sentenced to centuries in prison for supposedly running Heyer over in Charlottesville Unite the Right rally, would basically have gotten off scot-free were the incident that happened under DeSantis' watch. Another component of DeSantis legislation is the RICO liability section, which explains that anyone who organizes or funds a violent or disorderly assembly could be found guilty of racketeering and sentenced accordingly. One law and crime commenter in support of DeSantis' proposal said it would help to stop needless rioting, stop the obstruction of people's freedom of movement, allow innocent citizens to do what is necessary to save their lives, and fill up the potholes on the roads for free all at the same time. I think something definitely needs to be done about this. There's too many people that are, they're staying neutral in this, and they're falling victim to BLM, and that's just not right. I hope this is a trend, actually, and I hope these laws get passed. Thank you very much for coming along to my video. Please like, comment, share, and subscribe. It would greatly help out the channel, and God bless y'all.